think any differently. I really still believe this is going to be a top 5 defense week 1 on.
Totally agree.
All right, Dave, last day of training camp. We had a lot of questions coming into training camp about a lot of individuals. We had questions about position groups, depth, things like that. Let's start with the questions that we felt like they weren't answered maybe because we haven't seen regular season games, but we did get a chance to see what the potential answer could look like. O-line. What's your feeling about the O-line? Because I think everybody was focused on the O-line coming out of last season. It's no good. They've got to get it fixed. They're not going to win if they can't get that going. We saw them in preseason game number 1. We've seen them out here at practice. What's your take on the O-line to this point?
Well, they're able to move people off the line of scrimmage. So we saw that, and they ran for, 175, I think, in the preseason game. So that part looks really good. It's just that there are some individual pieces I'm not so sure about. And I'm not sure if they are. But if you look at center and right guard, I think that one's still up for grabs. So, but, you look at Abe Lucas, Zabel looked really good. I mean, Cross will be good. So, yeah, I mean, I think they have the guys, which I think is going to be Sundell and Bradford. But this may be a thing like the inside backers from last year. Maybe they get like 5-6 games in and go, all right, let's just clear house and bring in 2 new guys, which is basically what they did at inside backers. So, but I think that they have those people there in camp right now.
What do you think of the scheme? Because that was the other thing with Kubiak. We were talking about, the wide zone and how that was going to impact the O-linemen, and does it favor their skill set? Does it not? We saw some of that in the first game. I mean, to the amateur, it looked pretty good. I know they're not scheming for the Raiders or the Chiefs coming up this week, but just watching them out here in practice and then watching them put it into practice during the game, it looks like it suits the bodies they've got out there.
Yeah, absolutely it does. And like I said, we didn't see them move guys off the ball except for the Arizona game last year. I think they ran for 165 in that. But yeah, I mean, I think the scheme itself just creates angles for blockers. It helps. It's like offensive line friendly. And then same thing with the fullback. And you saw a couple of times where, they kind of had a little bit of a stretch play going, and the running back, Halani, just bounced it outside. So they're using that part of the field much better, and they're getting defenders going sideways. And then once you put your foot in the ground and go north and south, then all of a sudden they're moving sideways. And so it's almost like you fall forward for 4 or 5 yards. So I really liked what I saw, but they're going to have to execute it, of course.
We also saw, as you brought up, the fullback, and that's going to be something that they've talked about implementing. And how is it going to? You think it's going to be a full-time thing, like every game, we're going to see it for the majority of the series out there? There's going to be a fullback, or is it more of a specialty thing? Do you get a vibe yet as to how often or how prevalent the fullback's going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, because if you look at what they did offensively in New Orleans last year with Clint Kubiak, they had multi-tight end, multi-running back sets, a number like 500 times, 500 snaps last year. So, yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of Robbie Utes. I think he can play tight end as he did in college. And, I love it. And it's just more good blockers up front, and then they set up the play-action pass off of that really well. So, yeah, I think the fullback is here to stay.
As far as the defense goes, I don't think we had a lot of question. I think we were more about, can they be who they were when they left off last season? Because if you look at them in the second half of the season, this was a top 5 defense in the league. So I think the expectation is that's who they are to start the season. And to this point, and again, I'm not trying to put too much stock into one preseason game. You're not watching starters, but just seeing what we've seen out here and the level of comfort the players seem to have with it, nothing's happened to make me think any differently. I really still believe this is going to be a top 5 defense week 1 on.
Totally agree. And, we didn't really see the starters on the interior defensive line. I mean, they got some age there, some guys that are leaders that are in their 10, 11, 12th year. And, once they get those guys get out on the field, I thought there was a couple of question marks, though. And one was corner. And I love what Nehemiah Pritchett has done in not only at practice here, but in the preseason game. But then, he got the pick. And it was a beautiful thing, the way that he jumped the inside guy and the safety covered for him over the top, and it was almost like it was planned. And, he really understands the defense. So if you look at him, and then the inside backer depth, I thought was a huge question mark. That to me, Patrick O'Connell, he answered the questions, man. I love the way he's playing right now. So I think they got good depth there. But who's going to start at corner is probably the biggest question.
You know, one of the questions I had, and I think we both had, more of a curiosity or excitement, and that's about Emmanwori and getting a chance to see, you know, this is a guy who I think we were all excited about that the Seahawks were able to land in the second round. They move up to get him, a guy that was thought to be first-round talent. He looked good, but he looks like a guy they're going to use all over. I mean, if we're just going off one preseason game, they had him lined up on the nickel corner spot. He can play safety. He's like, where do you see that being the norm, or does he eventually settle in one area, do you think?
Well, no, I think he's so versatile. I don't think you're going to see him sit in one spot the whole game. I think, you know, like you said, I mean, he can play inside backer basically if they're in dime. And so, yeah, I mean, the threat for run is taken away, and he just, I've not seen a rookie moment with him. You know, either out at practice or in the game or the mock game, he makes plays. He never looks like he is, you know, off track in any way, and he's just a very mature player. So I can't wait to see what he can do. But, you know, he made a couple of plays in that game the other day.
Yeah, it looks like there's a reason to be excited about him. Now, as far as questions we had that we haven't had an answer to yet, because we haven't seen him play other than practice, is Sam Darnold, which outside of the O-line is probably the biggest question on this team. Have you gleaned much from practice? Do you have a sense of what you're in store for? Because I've seen moments where he's looked really good. I've seen other moments where not awesome. I don't know how much stock to put into it. I'm still very curious as to what does he look like when it's game time for this team.
I'd probably say the same thing you just said about Sam Darnold. Because, well, here's the one thing. We come out here and when we're watching practice, they're warming up. And so we don't see that much. And then we're doing our show out here while they're doing 7-on-7 and stuff. So, I mean, every once in a while we're blocked by the crowd or whatever. So I haven't seen that much of him in camp. But the fact that Mike didn't want to start him, and we'll see if he plays him in these last two games. But, you know, maybe with the joint practice, that's going to be enough for him. But I would like to see him go out and take a couple of series. But that's just from my own personal feelings. You know, I mean, for Mike McDonald, I think he is confident that he's going to be our starter.
Well, and I don't think you're alone in that. I think the fans feel that way. I feel that way. I'd love to see him get some time out there. Hopefully we will. But final day of training camp. Those are the observations so far. Still questions to be answered. We'll see what we see in the Chiefs game and Green Bay. And then the regular season's here before we know it. So go Hawks.